Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Vancity's 2022 Fraud Prevention Webinar. We'd like to begin this evening by acknowledging that Vancity operates on the unceded lands of the Coast Salish people, represented today by the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. They have been custodians of this land since time immemorial, and as visitors, we would like to start this evening by paying our respects to elders of the past, the present, and the leaders up and coming. So let's start this evening with a few announcements. Tonight's webinar will be recorded and it will be shared with registered attendees as well as posted to our YouTube channel following the event. As such, we have turned off all incoming cameras and muted your microphones. If you haven't already, please make sure you follow us on YouTube and our various social media platforms to stay connected and get access to great content like this webinar. For those of you joining via desktop, please note the banner at the top of your screen. Here you'll find a variety of opportunities to engage with tonight's webinar. The reaction button allows you to choose real-time emoji responses to the content being shared. The Q&A button allows you to submit a question which will be reviewed for our post-event Q&A. And lastly, if you'd like to turn on live captions, please select the More button and scroll down to select your preferences. If you're joining us via mobile at this time, unfortunately, these tools are only available to those joining via desktop. Please feel free to switch to a desktop device if one is available. In the meantime, we encourage you to engage with us throughout tonight's event and to take note of what's most valuable and what might be most helpful. As well, note this so that you can share with us so that we can include this in our future webinars. We will be sending out a quick survey after the webinar event, and everyone who participates will have a chance to win one of 3 prizes to spend at the Vancity member of their choice, valued at $100 each. So now let's give those emojis a try. If you're feeling good about your chances of being one of our $100 prize winners, please give yourself a thumbs up or a heart reaction. Lovely. Thank you so much for the enthusiasm. And with that, I'd now like to introduce you to our speakers for this evening. Serena Johal and Oksana Kalantar are investigators with our fraud and security team. Both have extensive experience serving our members and supporting fraud investigation and prevention at Vancity. We are in very good hands tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So without further ado, I will now pass the time over to Serena and Oksana and hope you all enjoy this webinar experience.
Hey everyone, I'm Serena. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to be sharing this information with you all.
And hello, I'm Oksana. We will be turning off our cameras so you can focus on our presentation, and then we will be back with you for Q&A.
Okay, so with that, let's start our presentation. Fraud can't happen to me, can it? As fraud continues to be a serious issue that affects the communities we live in, we want to ensure that our members are aware of the types of frauds and current scam trends that are out there so that you can better protect yourselves from becoming victims of fraud. So with that said, our focus today will be on providing you with some tips and reminders on how to best protect your personal information, identity, and financial accounts from fraudsters looking to make fast money at your expense. Fraudsters will always try and find ways to compromise your information and use it to their advantage. The topics we'll be covering today are scams, debit card fraud, check fraud, online banking fraud, identity theft, and some helpful tips and resources available to you. With that said, I'm going to pass it over to Oksana, who will begin discussing scams.
Thank you, Serena. Every year, Canadians lose millions of dollars to the activities of scammers who bombard us with online messages, mail, door-to-door, and telephone scams. Scammers target people of all backgrounds, ages, and income levels. Fake lotteries, internet frauds, get-rich-quick schemes, and miracle health cures are some of favorite ways to use by scammers to steal your money. New varieties of scams appear all the time. Scammers are real. They're out there every day looking for victims. Today, we will be sharing some tips on how to protect yourself and your loved ones from falling victim to a scam. The first scam I would like to talk about today is investment scam. Everybody loves a great deal, but tracking offers and unreal rates might be signal that the offer isn't quite what it seems. Fraudsters will contact you and offer very exciting investment opportunity. They may use email, social media sites, even dating apps. Cryptocurrency or virtual currency or Bitcoin has become very popular and appealing investment opportunity. And with the rise of popularity, we see a substantial increase in cryptocurrency scam incidents. Fraudsters targeting Bitcoin investors because it's largely unregulated, anonymous, and incredibly difficult to track. There are some tips to protect yourself. Do not let anyone pressure you into making decisions about your money or investments, and never commit to any investment on the spot. Be cautious of incoming phone calls and unsolicited investment opportunity or even general advice on investing. Never provide your personal or financial information to anyone calling or messaging you. Remember, legitimate investor advisors will not be looking for clients on social media platforms. Do your own research, ask questions. Fraudsters will try to override your hesitance by providing overcomplicated, hard to understand answers. If you can't get your question answered, take a step back and reconsider. Don't hesitate to contact your financial institution for best advice. Do not send any money to someone you have only met online, even if the investment opportunity was offered to you by a friend. Keep in mind that their social profiles could be hacked by someone and they are messaging you on their behalf. On this note, I'll pass it over to Serena.
Thanks, Oksana. The next scam we'll be covering is income tax and CRA scams. We've all had at least one of these scam calls at some point or another. This particular scam usually occurs via phone, and the scammer claims to be an employee of CRA, Service Canada, or CBSA, and they're attempting to steal your personal information by asking you to verify information like your date of birth, SIN, address, or ID numbers. Once you provide this information, it is then used to steal your identity. More commonly, individuals are receiving calls from scammers purporting to be from CRA, Service Canada, or CBSA, claiming that you have unpaid taxes or balances owing, and advising you that you've committed financial crime since the payment is now in arrears. These calls are known to be threatening in nature by stating you'll be arrested, fined, or even deported if you don't make arrangements to make payment. The scammers will usually ask their victims to withdraw cash or purchase a gift card or deposit to a Bitcoin account. The reason they're requesting these specific payment methods is because once funds are deposited to a Bitcoin account or to a gift card, there's little to no recourse in obtaining these funds back. To prevent yourself from falling victim to an investment scam, never release or confirm any personal information via phone, and under no circumstances should you withdraw cash from your account to fulfill the payment being demanded. These calls are always intended to be threatening and create urgency. Always be sure to contact the government bodies discussed today before proceeding with payment. Remember, the government would never place a threatening call requesting any payment in arrears be made by way of Bitcoin or a gift card. If you're uncertain of the legitimacy of the call, ask the name of the agent and call CRA directly. The contact number for CRA can be found on our website. Whatever you do not contact the number provided by the caller to verify the legitimacy of the call you received. And now I'll pass it along to Oksana to cover the next scam.
Thank you. The next, we will be covering emergency scam. We used to call it grandparent scam. When victim receives a phone call from a scammer claiming to be one of their grandchildren. Caller tells them that they're in trouble and they need some money. Of course, they're asking not to tell their parents or other relatives. And there is normally a strong sense of urgency in these calls. You may hear heartbreaking and very convincing stories. If you receive such a phone call, there is what you need to do. Take time to verify the story. Scammers are counting on you wanting to help quickly and not to check anything. Call the child parents or friend to find about their location. If you receive a phone call regarding a loved one being in jail or in a hospital, call the hospital or police detachment to confirm this. Ask the person on the phone questions that only your loved one would be able to answer and verify their identity before taking any steps to help. Over to you, Serena.
Perfect. Thanks, Oksana. The next scam we'll be discussing is romance scams. So the way this works is fraudsters create a fictional online personality to attract people who are legitimately looking for a relationship on dating websites or social media platforms such as Instagram or Facebook. Once a relationship is established and trust has been built, the scammer will usually begin requesting for financial assistance for one reason or another. Typically, they'll come up with a situation of urgent nature, which requires financial assistance from their victim. Or there are times where they lead their victim to believe, sorry, one moment.
It seems we're experiencing some technical difficulties. Please bear with us as we move through them. Thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you for your patience. I will be filling in for Serena while she's dealing with some technical issues. My name is Val Dillon. So let's just go back to romance scams. Once a relationship is established and trust has been built, the scammer will usually begin requesting for financial assistance for one reason or another. Scammers will come up with a situation that is an urgent of nature, which requires financial assistance from their victim, or the victim to believe that they are in a long distance relationship and require money to meet the victim in person, and they need assistance with paying for a plane ticket and so forth. They will request their victims to send wires, e-transfers, deposit to a Bitcoin account, or sometimes even a check. Relationships can go on for months, or even in some cases, years before victims realize they are being scammed. To prevent yourself from falling victim to a romance scam, be wary of relationships established online, particularly when you have not met the individual in person and they have requested financial assistance from you. You should only be sending funds to someone you really trust and have met in person. Also, never accept checks from individuals you meet online, even if the person you are speaking to promises you can keep a portion of the check to yourself. Example, members who have received a check from a friend online, they're asked to deposit the check and e-transfer or buy gift cards with a portion of the check and then keep the remainder for themselves. Sounds like a great deal, right? Well, we're here to tell you that it's not. Oftentimes people will comply with the request because because they trust the person they're speaking to. The check is deposited, funds are withdrawn, and days later, the check is returned on the account, and they are left responsible for the fraudulent deposit. Very unfortunate that these scams are still prevalent out there. Oksana?
Thank you, Val. Well, let's move to the next scam. The next scam we will be covering today is employment scam. More people are seeking for an employment online nowadays by submitting resumes via email or submitting online applications. Especially during the pandemic, working from home has become a new reality for many people. This allows fraudsters to post fake jobs and lure people in. You will think that you are starting new remote work when your new employer will send you a check, even before you actually start doing any work. They might ask you to purchase some merchandise, to buy some gift cards for your other coworkers, or to send a portion of the money back due to administrative error. Then you will use funds from the check deposit, and a few days later, the check will bounce, and you will be left with an overdraft. There are some tips on how to protect yourself. Never send your bank account or credit card details to anybody you don't know and trust. If you cash a check and it turns out to be counterfeit, you could be held accountable for entire monetary loss by your bank. Don't make any decisions without carefully researching the offer. Seek independent advice before making decisions. Ask yourself, did I get all details in writing before paying or signing anything? Feel free to reach out to Vancity for best advice. Over to you, Serena.
Thanks, Oksana. The next scam we're going to be discussing is remote access scams. So when this type of scam occurs, fraudsters usually persuade their victims into allowing them remote access to their device. The goal in a remote access scam is to steal any personal or financial information stored on your device, which then puts you at risk of ID theft and other types of fraud. So you may be thinking, how do remote access scams work? This is super simple, as there are apps out there that allow you to remotely access another person's device over the internet from wherever you are in the world by simply trading personal ID codes. These ID codes are given to you by the app. The way fraudsters use this to their advantage is they place phone calls to their victims acting as third parties, such as Microsoft or even sometimes a financial institution, and they convince their members that their phone or computer has been infected with a virus and they require remote access before their device is compromised. Alternatively, remote access scams can also come in the form of a pop-up message on your device. These messages can claim to be from a tech support company, warning you that your computer has been infected and to click a link contained in the message to get in touch with the tech support person. In more severe cases, fraudsters purport to be calling you from your financial institution, and they're calling to advise you that there's been a security breach on your account. Their goal is to have you log into your online banking, since they can now see your login credentials as you type it. Once your login information has been captured, it may be used to complete unauthorized transactions. In some cases, fraudsters persuade their victims into moving funds out of their accounts via e-transfer. Their victims believe they're transferring funds to safe accounts since their existing accounts have been compromised. However, they have then transferred funds to accounts opened by fraudsters. So in conclusion, under no circumstances would a tech support company or your financial institution call you to advise you that your device or accounts have been compromised and they require remote access to your device. If you feel you might have fallen victim to a remote access scam, contact your financial institution immediately and disconnect your device. And now I'll pass it along to Oksana, who'll discuss the next scam.
Thank you, Serena. And the last scam we will be talking about today is phishing scams. Phishing refers to when you get unsolicited email that claims to be from legitimate organization and you're provided with instructions to verify some information via email. Smishing is the same idea when you get a text message. Those messages often have a logo of organization and look legitimate. You will be prompted to click the link provided, which most often take you to the phishing website. Remember, your financial institution will never ask you to provide one-time password or your PIN or personal information through email or text. How many of us received shipping notification from FedEx or cash reward from Costco? There are some tips I want to share today to prevent phishing scam. Ignore communication from unknown contacts. Delete suspicious messages as they can carry viruses. Don't reply to spam messages, even to unsubscribe. And don't open any attachments. Don't follow any links. To verify a hyperlink without clicking, hover your mouse over it and carefully check if it's accurate. Update your antivirus software on all your devices. Never use phone number or email address provided in the suspicious message. Use contact information listed on verified official websites. Over to you, Serena.
Thanks, Oksana. And now to give you an example of some of the top scam trends of 2021, as well as their reported losses, the next slide consists of the top 10 scams and their losses as reported by the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. For those of you who don't know, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre is Canada's national anti-fraud call center, and they collect information on any fraud reports and provide information on past and current scam trends. The top 3 scams of 2021 are, at the top, investment scams at $163.9 million in losses, followed by romance scams at $64.6 million in losses. And third, phishing scams at $54 million in losses. The top 3 reported dollar losses are scams we covered today. As you can see, there are various other types of scams referenced in this slide. At the end of this presentation, we'll be sharing the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre's website. Please refer to their website to review these stats in more detail and for further information on scams. Okay, on to Oksana, who'll cover some examples of some scams.
Thank you, Serena. You can see some screenshots, and those are real. The first and the second exhibit is phishing texts from Canada Revenue Agency and Vancity. They are very similar in structure. Usually they're not mentioning your name, but they do provide the link. So you can click it and be forwarded to the phishing website so they can steal your online banking credentials and other information. The third exhibit, it's a Bitcoin ATM. Many of you have seen this in various places. It only works with cash. If someone is asking you to withdraw cash from your account and deposit through this machine, more than likely it's a scam. Please don't do that. The fourth exhibit is an actual screenshot of messages between a scammer and their victim. You can see a sense of urgency, which encouraging you to act quicker. And I don't have this in the slides or covered, but I want to share one of very common scam example with you today, especially with vacation season coming. It's a rental property scam. John is looking for a family getaway idea online. It's hard to find great deal at a lower price. Then he sees one ad on Craigslist. Beautiful property in Tofino. Looks great. So he contacted the owner using phone number provided in the ad. Seems like John's lucky day. The property is available for rent for that week that he was looking for. Then the owner is telling them to send full amount of rent by electronic fund transfer immediately to secure the spot, because another family is looking to book this property for the same period of time. They texted John the name and email for e-transfer. Transaction completed. John got another text with an address of the property. John and his family are so excited to go. When the time comes, they take a ferry, go to Tofino. You already can tell how it ends. They're not able to find the address. The property did not exist. The owner blocked their number and not responding to their messages. Needless to say, they're out a lot of money. This is a real story, and this can happen to anyone. Always look for these red flags. Urgency. Take a minute to pause and think, why is this so urgent? Second, lower than normal prices. In addition, I would recommend to ask questions, read online reviews, check Google Maps to see if the street address even exists. Rent only through reputable site where all holes are verified. The types of scams we are seeing today aren't necessarily the scams we will be seeing in the future. Scams have also become more sophisticated and harder to track. I want to mention once again that anyone can be targeted by a scammer. From teenagers to grandparents, from newcomers to senior corporate officers. If you have fallen victim to a scam, the best thing you can do is to report fraud or scam, whatever the amount, to appropriate authorities. Don't be embarrassed, as this will help others to be more aware. And that's all I have today for the scams. Over to you, Serena.
Thank you. Just a quick reminder, everyone, to use the Q&A section to ask some questions as we go, as we'll be addressing them at the end of the presentation. Okay, how to protect yourself from debit card fraud. So now we're going to change gears a little bit and talk about how to prevent yourself from falling victim to debit card fraud. Okay, debit card fraud occurs when your PIN number is used to complete unauthorized transactions. In this section, we'll go through some tips you can use to prevent unauthorized use of your debit card. First tip, use your hand or body to shield your passcode when you're conducting a transaction at the ATM or point of sale terminal, and be mindful of individuals standing closely behind you. If a machine looks like it's been tampered with, don't use it and alert the vendor. Secondly, if your debit card is lost or stolen, report your missing debit card right away. Treat your cards like cash and never lose sight of them. Third, don't provide anyone with your credit or debit PIN. This includes your family or friends. If you feel that someone else knows your PIN, visit any Vancity ATM or branch to change your PIN. If you don't happen to be close by a branch, you can call our member service center and we can add a temporary block to your card. All right, the fourth tip. This one seems obvious, but it is a good reminder. Be sure to choose unique numbers as your PIN that only you would know. A PIN number shouldn't be something that can be easily guessed, such as your date of birth, portion of phone number, or address. And also ensure your PIN number is not written down anywhere or stored on your phone. And the final tip, check your statements regularly or monitor your account activity by using our online banking or mobile app. And always report unauthorized or suspicious transactions to your financial institution immediately. Now that we've wrapped up how to protect your debit card, I'll pass it over to Oksana.
Thank you, Serena. What is check fraud? Check fraud can happen in a few different ways. Criminals can steal your checks, create counterfeit checks, or simply change the name and amount on legit check. In any case, there are a number of steps that you can take to protect yourself from check fraud. Check fraud is either where fraudulent check is deposited to your account or the fraudulent check debit your account. There are multiple types of fraudulent checks, such as counterfeit, altered, forged, and I could talk all night about those, but I want to share with you some tips on how to prevent you from check fraud. First, tips on how to protect your checks from being used fraudulently. Keep checks in a locked and secured location. Do not keep checks in your car. Never pre-sign checks. If you close your account, shred any unused checks. Never carry your checkbook unless you plan to use a check. Immediately report loss, theft of checks to Vancity. So now, how to protect yourself from fraudulent check being given to you. If you have accepted a check as a payment for something you are selling, know who you're dealing with. And whenever possible, make sure that the check or the money order or the bank draft, which also could be counterfeit, has cleared and the money has been confirmed before you release the item to a buyer. Never accept checks from unknown individuals. Never provide your ATM and PIN to anyone to make deposit on your behalf. Don't accept checks which shows any signs of alteration. Don't accept a check made out to another individual and then signed over to you. If you are selling something, don't accept check in the amount greater than the purchase price. This is commonly known scam, overpayment scam. And last thing, if you're concerned about the source of a check to be deposited, immediately report to your financial institution. When you deposit a fake check into your account, knowingly or unknowingly, you are personally responsible for the funds. And over to you, Serena.
Thanks, Oksana. In this next section, we'll be covering online banking fraud. Online banking makes daily banking fast and convenient. However, there are fraudsters out there who've made it their business to fool you into sharing your financial information by using sophisticated tools that look real to most users. We'll go over some of the most common types of online email and text fraud and provide you with some tips on how to protect yourself from it. Okay, first let's talk about what not to do. Do not share, write down, or make an easy to guess password for your online banking. This includes saving passwords on any electronic device. Never share your personal access code. There's absolutely no reason that any person or company would require your personal access code. Even Vancity wouldn't ask you your personal access code. If you're approached by anybody requesting this information, proceed with caution, as you are likely being scammed. Do not share your member card number with anyone. Never share multi-factor authentication or one-time passwords with anybody. Multi-factor authentication is meant to protect your account from unauthorized logins. If you receive a one-time password, it should never be shared with anyone, even if they say they have sent it to your device. A one-time password is never meant to be shared, so be wary of any person or company requesting you to share this code, as this is a red flag that a fraudster is attempting to access your online banking. Refrain from saving your login credentials or passwords to any devices. Avoid clicking on any phishing or smishing texts, links, or pop-ups. As mentioned earlier, if you're not anticipating a text or email from a company, do not select any links or input any personal information that's requested. These links are harmful and can contain viruses. If you unknowingly select a phishing link, which you believe to be legitimate, and are asked for your member card number, personal access code, or even personal information, such as date of birth, SIN, name, or address, never proceed with inputting this information, even if the email or form looks to be legitimate. Lastly, as mentioned in the previous slides, do not give remote access to anyone.
All right, thank you, Serena. Now you know what not to do. I'll tell you what you can do to protect yourself from online banking fraud. Always use password protected devices. If you need to use anybody else's device, please make sure to log off. Use secure device and secure Wi-Fi. Do not log in into online banking using public Wi-Fi in the hotel, library, or coffee shop. Set up online banking alerts. Alerts can be helpful when someone is trying to log into your account or trying to set up new e-transfer recipients. If you receive one-time password for multi-factor authentication that you didn't request or an alert for unauthorized login, please call your please call our call center. Use the number at the back of your card or visit your local branch to report this immediately. When accessing your online banking from a browser, please type complete website address into the address bar instead of using Google search. You can save the page in your favorites if you like. But using Google search, it's a really dangerous thing, as you can hit a phishing site, and by entering your credentials on a phishing site, you'll allow fraudster to steal them. And now I'll pass it over to Serena to discuss the next section.
Thanks so much, Oksana. This next section will be covering identity theft, also known as identity fraud. This is a form of stealing another person's personal information and then assuming that person's identity to access resources or obtain credit and other benefits in the victim's name. In this next section, we'll be discussing what steps you can take to prevent yourself from falling victim to ID theft. If any of your identification or personal information, for example, name, date of birth, IDs, SIN number, or account statements, etc., have been stolen or compromised, you should immediately do the following. Contact your financial institutions. It's important that you advise all the financial institutions that you have a relationship with, as they can place cautionary messages that your identification has been compromised and take further action to protect your accounts. You should also contact the credit bureau agencies, Equifax and TransUnion. These are the credit reporting agencies in Canada. If you suspect your personal information has been stolen, they can place an alert on your credit bureau to contact you before any future credit inquiries are authorized. You can also contact CRA if your SIN number has become compromised, so even SIN card lost or stolen. In the case of a lost BC driver's license, BC ID, or BC services card, you should reach out to ICBC. And lastly, if your passport is lost or compromised, contact the Government of Canada. Okay, as a reminder, here are some simple tips you can use to prevent fraud or scams. Ensure you protect all your personal account documents, such as bank and credit card statements, CRA and income documents, social insurance card and number. These should be stored in a secure location, and be sure to shred any documents containing personal information before disclosing them. Also, be sure to check your mail on a regular basis to prevent it from becoming stolen. Immediately report any missing bank or credit card statements. Keep your PIN numbers and personal codes secure. Check your credit reports annually to help detect suspicious activity. To do this, you can contact Equifax or TransUnion and have a copy of your credit bureau mailed to you. And don't give out any personal information via mail, phone, or online unless you have initiated the contact. And lastly, remember, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And next, I'll pass it over to Oksana, who will discuss some resources available to you.
Thank you, Serena. Please take a moment to screenshot or write down these resources that will help you to keep your personal and banking information safe, and to contact appropriate agencies to report identity theft, fraud, or scam. Please report the fraud, whatever the amount, to the appropriate authorities. I want to point out a little black book of scams. It's a free book in PDF format that's available in 8 languages. It aims to increase your awareness of the many different kinds of fraud that target Canadians. It provides tips on how to protect yourself and debunks common myths that might allow fraudsters to gain your trust. You will learn about less common types of scams that we didn't cover in our webinar, such as subscription traps, health and medical scams, tax scams, door-to-door scams, and much, much more.
Thanks, Oksana. So now it's time for the Q&A portion of the presentation. If not done so already, please feel free to submit your questions via the Q&A button. All right, so for the first question, Cindy has asked, everything needs a PIN. Provide solutions to save passwords, and I have over 100 passwords to remember and cannot remember them. How to record, sorry, one moment. Where, how to record for reference, share examples. So in this case, we would recommend reputable password managers or biometric login.
Great, and we got another question here. If on vacation at a hotel out of country, how can I use your online banking safely? Personally, I try to use my phone data for online banking when I absolutely need to. And some of the resorts actually provide you with a password protected internet. So it's not a Wi-Fi which available to everyone in the lobby. That's a little bit safer to use than open Wi-Fi.
Just waiting to see if there's a couple more questions coming through.
If you're trying to locate Q&A and you can't, look at the top ribbon. It's right there, just right after the reactions.
We have a new question here. It says, what are some basic things people do or don't do that make them a risk?
I mean, it depends what you're referring to. For example, debit card fraud. Card fraud can occur quite easily if you're not keeping your ATM card in a secure location. So if you're not returning your ATM card to your wallet and you put it in your pocket and it falls out, someone can easily pick up your debit card and use it for tap, right? For online banking fraud, you want to make sure that your device used for online banking is password protected, and the password, the login and password is not stored anywhere in memos or saved messages within your device. Those are some straightforward things that you can do to protect yourself from online banking fraud and debit card fraud.
And we have another question here. How do you know if you're compromised? Well, sadly, most of the time, you know when you're compromised just because some unauthorized transactions appearing on your statement. But there are some things that you can do to know sooner than that, such as online banking alerts. So then when someone is trying to access your account, you already will get an alert and you can prevent fraud from happening. Second is multi-factor authentication allows you to get one-time password every time when someone is logging in from a different device. That's a very useful tool. And if you received such a code and you didn't request for one, then it's a strong indication someone is trying to use your online banking. And of course, if you're missing statements, if you just moved and you didn't do mail redirect, if someone got your mail, your statements in possession, that can be risky and that actually could cause compromise as well.
Great. Just to add to just another tip about what some basic things people can do or don't do to put themselves at risk. Just simple things as well, like don't keep your wallet or purse in your car overnight or when you're not in it. We do see a lot of fraud from vehicles being broken in and wallets and purses being stolen. Same thing with checks. Don't keep your checks in your wallet or in a safe place if they're not in use. Next question, how do you know if you are compromised? Well, more recently with multi-factor authentication, you might get a notification that your account is being accessed or multi-factor authentication is being triggered on your device or changed. That would alert you that maybe somebody else is looking to access your device. You would know by logging into your online banking daily and checking your account balances and transactions or checking your statements.
All right. If I have been the victim of a scam where I withdrew cash and gave it to a scammer, is there any way I can recover what I lost? Thank you. It's a very tough question because we've been seeing this more often when these things happens. We encourage everyone to report the scam as soon as possible. The more people will report the scam, the more chances you give in to the police to actually locate those individuals, just keep in mind you're not the only one who got targeted by the same group of people. And of course, it's really hard to track scammers. And if the money is being given to them, it's almost impossible to recover that loss. But in some cases, it did happen in past, and those people were tracked by the police and arrested.
Okay. So the next question is, how was my identity stolen? So as discussed earlier, identity theft can occur simply by, not shredding statements. If statements are put in the garbage without being shredded. So any types of statements, anything that has your name or personal information on it should be stolen, should be shredded. Any income documents like payroll stubs or letters of employment that are no longer in use, notices of assessment. If you're not keeping those in a safe place, you should shred them. Lots of identity theft occurs from stolen information, lost wallets. Identity theft can occur that way if you have lost your wallet and your driver's license, BC services card, social insurance number. Those are all things people can use to very easily steal your identity.
All right, I have a question here. Why do I have to report lost ID to police? So lost ID could be used by fraudsters to do many bad things, such as open account, apply for a loan under your name, and do other unlawful things. It's very important to make sure you report your stolen ID to the police to prevent yourself from ID theft, and also to protect yourself from being accused of bad thing you didn't do. I still see some hands up. I just want to tell you again that we are not able to see you and allow you to ask question in open format. Please use Q&A. It's on the ribbon, the little Q&A symbol right after the reaction button. Then you will be able to type your question in ask a question field and post it. That's your chance to ask anything you want today. Let's see, we got something else.
Here's a question. With the fraud incidents you investigate, what are the top 3 things we all need to know to protect ourselves?
Okay, I would say one of the top things is be mindful of going back to ID theft. That is huge. We see a lot of attempted ID theft or and stolen identities, attempted takeovers on accounts. So let us know, communicate if you notice that you have even lost mail. Like that's identity theft can occur that way. Let us know, let your financial institution know, let Equifax know if you've lost your wallet, anything like that, lost statements, that's at the very top to protect yourself from ID theft. Let's see.
I would like to add that all of us now living in different reality, and sometimes we're looking for friends online. I want to remind you, be very careful. Online, we are not protected as much as you might think, and people will target you, and they will try to gain your trust in order to scam you. And we see this incident every single day. So one of the top 3 things for me is just try to get to know the person until you start providing any information about yourself or sending any money.
Yeah, and I would say going back to scams and unauthorized use of your online banking, just remember, like, you should never be sharing your online banking password with anybody, no matter if they're calling and they're saying they're from Vancity or they're calling from Microsoft, wherever, and your accounts need to be protected and they require you to log into your online banking. You never want to share that password or your PAN number with anybody. That will help protect you from falling victim to scams. And then remote access scams, we do see that a lot as well. Again, there's never a good reason for anybody to be remotely accessing your device. So directing you to log into your online banking, you inputting your password while they navigate through a website, that's something that'll definitely protect you from falling victim to those sorts of scams. And then going back to investment scams, like Oksana had mentioned earlier, remember, if the investor that you're dealing with is promising a really high rate of return in a short window of time, very small investment, those are all really good dead giveaways that it's too good to be true, and you've likely fallen victim to a scam. So you should proceed with caution if that's the case.
Exactly. I think we missed one question here. Do all places that require password have multi-factor authentication to be able to set up? And how do I set that up? That's another great question. We've seen more and more apps and credit card accounts. They use multi-factor authentication, but not everywhere. It's still a new technology. Recently, many credit card application on your mobile phone can be logged into with biometric, facial recognition, touch ID, and with a code sent to you via email or text message. Not all the apps, as I mentioned again, have that function, but whenever possible, we encourage you to use that feature. And just from our point of view, since Vancity implemented multi-factor authentication, we've been seeing decrease in online banking fraud. So it does work. And to set it up, you need to go to the settings, or you can always call the call center of the app, the credit card or financial institution you've been dealing with, and they will be able to help you to set it up.
Okay, question from John. Is it common for scammers to try and emulate banking websites? It absolutely is. That is very, very common. Our best advice there is, number one, if you can use our app, that is the best way to ensure that you're logging on to our website. And secondly, if you're using a desktop browser, do not Google our website. If you're going to use a browser like Chrome or Edge, you want to make sure you're typing our website, so www.vancity.com, into the address bar, and that will ensure that you are getting to our legitimate website. Because often what happens is yes, scammers can emulate our website, and what they do is that they create these fake Vancity websites to capture your online banking information once you click the link on the Google search. And at that point, once you input your PAN number and your PAC, that information is then sent directly to the scammers, and you won't be any wiser because their website looks exactly like ours. So lean away from Googling our website. You'll never see Vancity in the ad section. So you want to make sure that you're typing our name into the browser. Okay, and the last question, what do you do if you were frauded? call us right away. You want to call your financial institutions right away. And you also want to report this to the police and Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. Those are the things you want to do if you're frauded.
Or if you got the fraud in progress, if someone convinced you to allow them remote access to your device, the best thing you can do, unplug your device and call us right away so we can restrict your online banking to prevent further unauthorized access. And of course, report this to the police. All right. We came to an end of our Q&A. Thank you so much for attending our webinar. Please take a minute to complete our survey by scanning QR code on your screen. Please fill out the survey. We would love your feedback, and this will help us to make our webinars more interesting, more valuable to you. And we will use those topics which the most interest to you in our future webinars. We will be sending a link for survey after the event to every participant. And if you fill the survey, you have a chance to win one of 3 prizes to spend $100 at Vancity member of your choice. So again, it's 3 prizes, $100 each. Thank you again for joining us tonight. Have a
Thanks,
good night.
everybody.